The slave auction on Karath Station was busy that morning. Hundreds of different alien species walked through the massive hall, looking at the creatures locked in energy cages. Some buyers wanted workers for their mines. Others wanted servants for their homes. A few wanted something more cruel, something for entertainment in illegal fighting pits. Marcus Cole stood in cage number 47. He was the only human in the entire auction. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face had bruises from the beatings he received when the slavers first captured him. His hands were bound with energy cuffs that burned his wrists whenever he moved too much. He looked like nothing special. Just another broken prisoner waiting to be sold. The Karath were a powerful species in this sector of the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall with gray skin that looked like stone. Their eyes were completely black, and they had 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. They had been capturing and selling slaves for thousands of years. To them, it was just business. They did not see other species as equals. They saw them as products to be bought and sold. A Karath slaver named Vex walked past the cages, checking on the merchandise. When he reached cage 47, he stopped and looked at Marcus with disgust. "This one is worthless," Vex said to his partner, a smaller Karath named Drell. "Humans are weak. They break easily. They cannot work in mines because the gravity kills them. They cannot fight because they have no claws or natural weapons. I do not know why we even bothered capturing him." Drell shrugged all 4 of his shoulders. "The ship we raided had nothing else of value. At least we can sell him for a few credits. Someone will buy him for entertainment. Watching weak species die in the fighting pits is popular these days." Marcus listened to their conversation but said nothing. He kept his head down and his eyes on the floor. He had learned quickly that showing any sign of resistance meant more beatings. The slavers enjoyed hurting prisoners who fought back. It made them feel powerful. But Marcus was not as broken as he appeared. Behind his tired eyes, his mind was working. He was watching everything. He was counting the guards. He was studying the layout of the station. He was waiting for the right moment. The auction began an hour later. Buyers gathered in the main hall, sitting in rows of floating seats that hovered above the auction floor. The cages were brought out one by one, and the prisoners inside were sold to the highest bidder. When cage 47 was brought forward, most of the buyers did not even look up from their data pads. Humans were considered one of the weakest species in the galaxy. Earth had only been discovered by the wider galactic community 50 years ago, and, in that time, humans had earned a reputation for being fragile, short-lived, and unremarkable. "Next item," the auctioneer announced. His voice echoed through speakers built into the walls. "1 human male. Adult. No special skills. No genetic modifications. Suitable for light labor or entertainment purposes. Starting bid at 100 credits. There was silence in the hall. No one raised their hand. 50 credits, the auctioneer said, lowering the price. Still nothing. 20 credits, he tried again. "Come on, someone must want a human. They make decent pets if you train them properly." A few buyers laughed at that comment. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help him now. Finally, a hand went up in the back of the room. It belonged to a Valkyrie, a species known for running illegal fighting pits across the galaxy. The Valkyrie were tall and thin, with blue skin and long fingers that ended in needle-sharp points. Their eyes were yellow and filled with cruelty. "I will take him for 20 credits, the Valkyrie said. His voice was like glass scraping against metal. "My pit fighters need something easy to kill. It will warm them up before their real matches." The auctioneer nodded. "Sold to the Valkyrie in the back. Congratulations on your purchase." Marcus was let out of the auction hall and into a transport ship. The Valkyrie buyer, whose name was Silas, looked at him with the same expression someone might have when looking at garbage. "You will not last long," Silas said as the ship took off. "My fighters will tear you apart in seconds." But, do not worry. Your death will be quick. I am not completely without mercy. Marcus still said nothing. He sat in the corner of the holding cell, his hands still bound, his body still aching from the beatings. But, inside, he was calculating. He was planning. He was preparing. The journey to the fighting pit took 3 days. During that time, Marcus was given very little food and water. The Valkyrie believed that hungry fighters put on a better show. They were more desperate, more willing to do anything to survive. On the second night, one of Silas's guards came into the holding cell. He was a large creature, not a Valkyrie but something else. His species had green scales and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. He looked at Marcus with hatred. I heard what you are, the guard said. A human. My brother was killed by humans during a raid on one of your colony ships 5 years ago. Your people fought back. They should not have done that. Marcus looked up at the guard but did not respond. They killed him with their primitive weapons, the guard continued. Projectile guns. Chemical explosives. Disgusting technology. But, they still managed to hurt us. So now I am going to hurt you. The guard stepped into the cell and raised one of his clawed hands. He was about to strike when Marcus finally spoke. Your brother, Marcus said calmly. Was he on the ship that attacked the Aurora colony? The guard stopped. His eyes narrowed with surprise. How do you know about that? Because I was there, Marcus said. And, I am the one who killed him. The guard's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, ready to tear Marcus apart with his bare hands. But, Marcus was faster than anyone expected. Despite the energy cuffs, despite the hunger and the beatings, he moved with a speed that should have been impossible for a human. He dodged the guard's attack, spinning to the side. Then, he brought his bound hands up and caught the guard's arm. With a quick twist and pull, he used the guard's own momentum against him, slamming him face-first into the metal wall of the cell. The guard crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Marcus stood over him, breathing heavily. His body hurt from the sudden movement, but he ignored the pain. He searched the guard's body and found a keycard that could disable his energy cuffs. Within seconds, his hands were free. He also found a small communication device. He pressed a few buttons, accessing a frequency that only a handful of people in the galaxy knew about. This is Shadow 1, Marcus said quietly into the device. Position compromised but status green. Requesting extraction at coordinates being sent now. Mission parameters have changed. Target is confirmed on Valkyrie Prime. Moving to Phase 2. A voice crackled back through the device. It was calm and professional. Shadow 1, this is command. Extraction team will reach your position in 18 hours. Can you hold until then? Negative, Marcus replied. I will have to move forward alone. Tell the Admiral that the Syndicate's main operation is bigger than we thought. I have visual confirmation that they are trafficking more than just slaves. I saw weapons in the auction hall. Military grade. Enough to arm a small invasion force. There was a pause on the other end. Then, the voice returned. Understood, Shadow 1. The Admiral has authorized full operational freedom. Do what you need to do. Reinforcements are being dispatched. Marcus ended the communication and pocketed the device. He looked down at the unconscious guard and, then, at the door of the cell. It was time to stop pretending. Marcus Cole was not a random human who had been captured by chance. He was a commander in the United Earth Special Operations Division, one of the most elite military units in the entire galaxy. For the past 2 years, he had been working undercover, allowing himself to be captured and sold multiple times in order to gather intelligence on the illegal slave trade that was destroying human colonies on the Outer Rim. The humans that the galaxy thought were weak and helpless had been hiding their true capabilities for decades. After first contact with alien species, Earth's governments had made a decision. They would pretend to be less advanced than they really were. They would let other species underestimate them. And they would use that underestimation to their advantage. The truth was that humans had developed technology far beyond what they showed to the galaxy. Their military was small but incredibly advanced. Their soldiers were trained in ways that other species could not understand. And their intelligence network stretched across dozens of systems, gathering information and preparing for the day when humanity would reveal its true strength. That day was coming very soon. Marcus moved through the ship like a ghost. The guards never saw him coming. He was trained in 100 different combat styles, and he knew exactly where to strike to take down each species he encountered. A Valkyrie had a weak spot at the base of the skull. A pressure point there would knock them out instantly. The scaled guards had sensitive nerve clusters along their spines. A quick strike would paralyze them for hours. Within 20 minutes, Marcus had disabled every guard on the ship without killing any of them. Death would attract attention. Unconscious bodies could be hidden and forgotten. He made his way to the ship's bridge, where Silas was reviewing reports on his datapad. The Valkyrie did not even look up when the door opened. "What is it now?" Silas asked with irritation. "I told you not to disturb me unless it was important." "Oh, this is important," Marcus said. Silas looked up and saw Marcus standing in front of him, completely free of his restraints. The Valkyrie's yellow eyes went wide with shock and fear. "How did you?" Silas started to say, but Marcus moved forward and grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off his seat with one hand. "You are going to answer some questions," Marcus said calmly. "And if you lie to me, I will know. Humans may seem weak to you, but we have one ability that your species does not. We can read micro-expressions. Tiny movements in your face that tell us when you are lying. So do not waste my time." Silas struggled in Marcus's grip, but it was useless. The human was far stronger than he should have been. "The weapons in the auction," Marcus continued. "Where did they come from? Who was supplying them?" "I do not know what you are talking about," Silas choked out. Marcus tightened his grip slightly. "That was a lie. Try again." Tears of fear began to form in Silas's eyes. Okay. The weapons come from the Dominion. They have been selling them through the slave trade to hide the transactions. The Korath are the middlemen. They handle the actual sales. Why? What does the Dominion want? They want war, Silas gasped. They are arming rebel factions across the galaxy. They want to destabilize the Council so they can take over. And they are using humans as one of their primary targets because everyone thinks humans are easy to defeat. They plan to attack Earth within the year. Marcus felt a cold anger settle in his chest. The Dominion was one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy. They had always looked down on younger species like humanity. But an attack on Earth itself? That was an act of war. Where is the main base of operations? Marcus asked. Where are they storing the weapons before distribution? Silas hesitated. If I tell you, they will kill me. If you do not tell me, I will kill you right now. And, I promise you, my way will be slower and more painful than anything they could do. Silas's resistance crumbled. Valkyrie Prime. The northern continent. There is a facility hidden in the mountains that officially belongs to a mining company. But, the mines have been empty for decades. The facility is where they store the weapons and train the fighters before sending them out. Marcus nodded. Good. You just saved your own life. He released Silas, and the Valkyrie collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Marcus walked to the ship's navigation console and began entering new coordinates. What are you doing? Silas asked. Taking this ship to Valkyrie Prime, Marcus replied. You are going to help me infiltrate that facility. Are you insane? There are hundreds of guards there. You cannot possibly defeat them alone. Marcus turned and looked at Silas with a cold smile. You still do not understand, do you? I am not alone. I have never been alone. Every human you have ever seen, everyone you have ever underestimated, is part of something bigger than you can imagine. We have been watching you, learning about you, and preparing for this moment. What are you? I am a human, Marcus said simply. And it is time for the galaxy to learn what that really means. The ship changed course and headed toward Valkyrie Prime. In the back of Marcus's mind, he knew that the next few hours would be dangerous. But he also knew that reinforcements were coming. The Admiral had authorized full operational freedom, which meant that somewhere in the darkness of space, a fleet of human warships was already moving into position. The Dominion thought they could attack Earth without consequences. The Korath thought they could sell humans as slaves without reprisal. The Valkyrie thought they could use humans as entertainment in their fighting pits. They were all about to learn how wrong they were. Marcus sat in the pilot's chair and watched the stars stream past the window as the ship traveled through hyperspace. He thought about his training, his years of preparation, and all the sacrifices he had made to reach this moment. He thought about the colonies that had been raided, the families that had been torn apart, and the humans who had been sold into slavery. This was why he had volunteered for this mission. This was why he had endured the beatings, the humiliation, and the months of pretending to be something less than he was. Because someone had to fight back. Someone had to make the galaxy understand that humanity was not weak. And that someone was him. The ship continued through the void of space, carrying its single human passenger toward a destiny that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The battle was about to begin. The mountains of Valkyrie Prime rose like broken teeth against a purple sky. Snow covered their peaks, and wind howled through the valleys between them. It was a harsh and unforgiving landscape, which made it the perfect place to hide an illegal weapons facility. Marcus landed the ship in a small canyon about 5 kilometers from the coordinates Silas had given him. He needed to approach the facility on foot to avoid detection. The Valkyrie had scanners that could detect incoming ships from hundreds of kilometers away, but a single person moving through the mountains would be nearly invisible. Before leaving the ship, Marcus tied Silas to a chair on the bridge and activated a security program that would keep the Valkyrie from escaping or calling for help. If I do not return within 12 hours, Marcus told him, this ship will automatically lift off and fly into deep space. The life support will shut down 6 hours after that. So you better hope I succeed. Silas's eyes went wide with terror. You cannot do this. You cannot leave me here to die. I can do whatever I want, Marcus replied. You sold humans as slaves for entertainment. You watched them die in your fighting pits for profit. You do not deserve mercy. But I am giving you a chance. If I come back, you live. If I do not, well, that is your problem. Marcus left the ship and began his trek through the mountains. The temperature was well below freezing, but his body had been enhanced through years of genetic modification and cybernetic implants. The cold did not bother him. Neither did the thin air or the steep terrain. These modifications were another secret that humanity kept from the galaxy. While other species relied on natural evolution, humans had taken control of their own biology. They had found ways to make themselves stronger, faster, and more resilient. Not every human had these modifications, but those who served in the Special Operations Division were among the most enhanced beings in existence. Marcus moved through the snow with practiced ease. His eyes had been modified to see in multiple spectrums, allowing him to spot heat signatures and energy fields that would be invisible to normal vision. His ears could pick up sounds from kilometers away. His muscles were reinforced with synthetic fibers that gave him strength far beyond what his size would suggest. After 3 hours of hiking, he reached a ridge overlooking the facility. It was exactly where Silas had said it would be, built into the side of a mountain with multiple levels visible from the outside. The entrance was guarded by at least 20 Valkyrie soldiers, and Marcus could see patrol vehicles moving along the roads that connected different sections of the complex. More importantly, his enhanced vision allowed him to see through the outer walls and into the facility itself. What he saw made his blood run cold. The weapons cache was massive. There were enough pulse rifles and plasma cannons to equip an army. But that was not the worst of it. In the deepest part of the facility, Marcus could see something that looked like a command center. Holographic displays showed star maps with attack routes clearly marked. And the primary target on those maps was unmistakable: Earth. The Dominion was not just planning a single strike. They were planning a full-scale invasion. The weapons in this facility were just one part of a much larger operation. There were other caches scattered across the galaxy, all being prepared for a coordinated assault that would hit Earth from multiple directions at once. Marcus activated his communication device. "Command, this is Shadow 1. I have visual on the facility. The situation is worse than we thought. Repeat, much worse. They are planning a full invasion of Earth. This is not a small operation. It is a declaration of war." The response came quickly. "Shadow 1, reinforcements are still 8 hours out. Can you hold that position and continue surveillance?" "Negative," Marcus replied. "They are on a timeline. I can see activity that suggests they are preparing to move the weapons within the next few hours. If I do not act now, we will lose this opportunity and any chance of stopping them before they attack." There was a long pause. Then, a different voice came through the communication device. It was deeper, more authoritative. Marcus recognized it immediately. "Commander Cole, this is Admiral Chun. I have taken direct command of this operation. Your orders are to infiltrate that facility and disable it by any means necessary. Gather as much intelligence as you can, but your primary objective is to delay the enemy until our fleet arrives. Do whatever it takes." "Understood, Admiral." Shadow 1 moving to engage. Marcus ended the communication and began making his way down the ridge toward the facility. He had trained for operations like this for years. Solo infiltration against overwhelming odds was exactly what the Special Operations Division was designed for. The first challenge was getting past the outer perimeter without being detected. The Valkyrie guards were alert, and their scanning equipment was sophisticated. But Marcus had studied Valkyrie technology extensively. He knew that their scanners had a blind spot when it came to certain biological signatures. Humans naturally produced electromagnetic fields that were different from most other species. With the right modifications, those fields could be altered to appear invisible to Valkyrie sensors. Marcus activated one of his implants, and his body's electromagnetic signature changed. To any scanner, he would now appear to be nothing more than background radiation, indistinguishable from the natural energy of the planet. He moved quickly across the open ground between his position and the facility's outer wall. The guards never looked in his direction. Their eyes passed over him as if he was not there. Within minutes, he had reached the base of the wall and found a maintenance hatch that would allow him access to the interior. The lock on the hatch was encrypted, but Marcus had tools that could bypass almost any security system in the galaxy. His cybernetic hand contained a universal decryption module that could crack codes in seconds. The hatch opened silently, and he slipped inside. The interior of the facility was dimly lit and smelled like oil and metal. Marcus found himself in a narrow corridor that ran along the outer edge of the complex. He could hear the hum of machinery and the distant sounds of Valkyrie voices echoing through the halls. He moved deeper into the facility, staying in the shadows and avoiding patrols. Every few minutes, he would stop and use his enhanced senses to scan the area ahead, looking for threats and mapping the layout. The weapons storage area was on the 3rd level below ground. Getting there required passing through multiple checkpoints, each one guarded by armed soldiers and automated defense systems. Most infiltrators would have been stopped within the first few minutes. Marcus was not most infiltrators. He approached the first checkpoint from an unexpected direction, climbing through the ventilation system until he was directly above the guards. They were Valkyrie, like most of the personnel in the facility, and they were armed with pulse pistols that could vaporize a human in a single shot. Marcus dropped from the ceiling without warning. Before the guards could react, he had struck both of them with precise blows that disrupted their nervous systems. They collapsed without making a sound. He dragged their bodies into a storage room and continued moving. The second checkpoint was more difficult. It was guarded by 4 soldiers and a scanning gate that would detect any unauthorized personnel. Marcus could have tried to hack the system, but it would take too long. Instead, he waited until a group of workers passed through the checkpoint and slipped in among them, using their bodies to block the scanner's view of him. The workers did not notice him. Why would they? He looked like just another prisoner being transferred for labor duty. By the time they realized something was wrong, Marcus had already separated from the group and disappeared into the shadows. The third checkpoint was the hardest. It was the entrance to the weapons storage area itself, and it was guarded by something Marcus had not expected. 2 Dominion soldiers stood at attention on either side of the door, their armor gleaming under the artificial lights. The Dominion was one of the oldest empires in the galaxy, and their soldiers were among the most feared warriors in existence. They were not like the Valkyrie, who relied on numbers and technology. Dominion soldiers were elite fighters, trained from birth for combat. Their armor was nearly impenetrable, and their weapons could level buildings. Marcus studied them carefully from his hiding spot. He had never fought Dominion soldiers before, but he had studied their tactics and weaknesses during his training. They were powerful, but they had one critical flaw. They were arrogant. They believed themselves to be superior to all other species, and that arrogance made them predictable. He waited until one of the soldiers turned slightly to check something on his wrist display. In that moment of distraction, Marcus struck. He launched himself at the first soldier, driving a blade made of crystallized carbon into the gap between the helmet and the chest plate. It was the only weak point in the armor, and Marcus hit it perfectly. The soldier went down without a sound. The second soldier reacted instantly, spinning around and raising his weapon. But Marcus was already moving. He ducked under the weapon's barrel and came up inside the soldier's guard. A quick strike to the throat, followed by a twisting grab that separated the helmet from the rest of the armor, and the second soldier joined the first on the ground. The entire fight had taken less than 5 seconds. Marcus caught his breath and looked at the 2 bodies. He had just defeated 2 Dominion soldiers in hand-to-hand combat, something that was supposed to be impossible for a human. But it was not impossible. Not anymore. He accessed the door controls and entered the weapons storage area. What he found inside made him stop in his tracks. The room was enormous, stretching at least a kilometer in every direction. And it was filled with weapons. Rows upon rows of pulse rifles, plasma cannons, and explosive devices. Enough firepower to destroy entire planets. But that was not what caught Marcus's attention. In the center of the room, raised on a platform, was something he had never seen before. It was a device of some kind, about 3 meters tall and covered in glowing symbols that pulsed with energy. Around it, Dominion technicians were working frantically, adjusting controls and monitoring readings. Marcus moved closer, staying hidden behind stacks of weapons crates. He needed to understand what that device was and what the enemy was planning to do with it. He got his answer a moment later when one of the technicians spoke. "The planetary disruptor is almost ready. Once we activate it, we can target Earth's core directly. The planet will tear itself apart within hours. No need for an invasion at all." Marcus felt his heart stop. A planetary disruptor. He had heard rumors about such weapons, but he had never believed they actually existed. The technology required to destroy an entire planet from within was beyond anything humanity had developed. But the Dominion had it. And they were planning to use it on Earth. He activated his communication device, keeping his voice barely above a whisper. "Command, this is Shadow 1. Priority 1 emergency. Repeat, Priority 1. The enemy has a planetary disruptor. They are planning to destroy Earth entirely, not invade it. I need those reinforcements now." Admiral Chen's voice came back immediately. "Shadow 1, our fleet is still 7 hours out. We cannot move any faster. You need to disable that weapon. Understood. Shadow 1 engaging. Marcus knew that what he was about to do would probably cost him his life. The room was filled with at least 50 enemies, including Dominion soldiers and technicians. He was alone, armed with only a knife and whatever weapons he could scavenge. The odds were impossible. But the alternative was unthinkable. If that weapon fired, Earth would be destroyed. 8 billion humans would die. Everything Marcus had ever known, everyone he had ever loved, would be gone in an instant. He had to stop it. No matter the cost. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped out of hiding. "Hey," he called out, his voice echoing through the massive room. "I think you forgot to invite me to your party." Every head in the room turned toward him. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, the Dominion commander, a massive creature in black armor that seemed to absorb the light around it, let out a sound that might have been laughter. "A human," the commander said. "Here. Alone. Do you have any idea what you have walked into, little creature?" "I know exactly what I walked into," Marcus replied. "A room full of people who made the mistake of underestimating humanity. And, in about 5 minutes, you are all going to regret that." The commander laughed again. "Kill him." Guards rushed toward Marcus from all directions. He did not run. He did not hide. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple metal cylinder. "Before you do that," Marcus said calmly, "you might want to know something. For the past 2 years, I have been gathering intelligence on every major criminal and military organization in this sector. I have names, locations, financial records, and operational details on thousands of illegal operations. All of that information is stored in a secure database that will automatically be transmitted to every government and law enforcement agency in the galaxy if I die." The guards hesitated, looking back at their commander for guidance. "More importantly," Marcus continued, "I have information on the Dominion itself. Secrets that your empire has kept hidden for centuries. Evidence of crimes against dozens of species. Proof of your plans to conquer the galaxy through force and manipulation. If that information gets out, the Galactic Council will have no choice but to declare war on the Dominion. Your entire empire will collapse." The commander's laughter died. "You are bluffing." "Am I? You captured me on a random raid 2 weeks ago. Or at least you thought you did. But, in reality, I let myself be captured. I have been planning this mission for years. Do you really think I would walk in here without a backup plan?" The commander was silent for a long moment. Then, it raised a hand, and the guards stopped their advance. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to step away from that weapon. I want you to surrender this facility to me. And, I want you to answer some questions about your plans. In exchange, I will not release the information I have gathered." "And, if I refuse?" Marcus smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. "Then, we all die together. And, your empire dies with us." The standoff lasted for nearly a minute. Marcus could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He was bluffing, of course. He did not have nearly as much information as he claimed. But, the commander did not know that. And, in situations like this, perception was everything. Finally, the commander made a decision. "Take him alive. We will extract the information from him directly." The guards moved forward again, but, this time they were not trying to kill Marcus. They were trying to capture him. That changed everything. Marcus had been trained to fight against enemies who wanted him dead. But, fighting against enemies who wanted him alive was actually easier. They would hesitate to use lethal force. They would try to subdue him instead of destroying him. And, that gave him openings he could exploit. The first guard reached him and tried to grab his arm. Marcus twisted away and drove his elbow into the guard's face. The second guard came in low, aiming for his legs. Marcus jumped over the attack and landed on the guard's back, using the momentum to flip forward and kick a third guard in the chest. More guards came. Marcus fought them all. He used every technique he had learned, every modification his body possessed. He moved like water, flowing around attacks and striking at weak points. He was faster than they expected, stronger than they believed possible, and far more skilled than any human had a right to be. But, even with all his abilities, he was still one man against many. Slowly, the guards began to overwhelm him. They grabbed his arms, his legs, his body. They dragged him to the ground and pinned him there, unable to move. The commander walked over and looked down at him. Impressive. For a human. But it was never going to be enough. You came here alone, and you will die here alone. Your species will be wiped out, and no one will remember you ever existed. Marcus looked up at the commander and grinned. Blood was running from a cut on his forehead, and his body ached from a dozen wounds. But he was still smiling. I never said I was alone. At that moment, the ceiling of the room exploded. Debris rained down, and, through the smoke and fire, figures began to drop into the room. They were wearing black armor that seemed to drink in the light. They moved with perfect coordination, each one covering the others as they landed and began engaging the enemy. Human soldiers. Dozens of them. The Special Operations Division had arrived. The battle that followed was brutal and fast. The human soldiers fought with a ferocity that the Dominion had never seen before. They were not just well-trained. They were enhanced, modified, and driven by a determination that bordered on fanaticism. The Dominion commander tried to rally his forces, but it was too late. The humans were everywhere, cutting through his guards like they were nothing. Within minutes, the room was secured. A figure in black armor walked over to Marcus and helped him to his feet. The helmet retracted, revealing the face of a woman with short dark hair and sharp eyes. Commander Cole, she said. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, 3rd Battalion. The Admiral sent us to make sure you did not get yourself killed. Marcus laughed, wincing at the pain in his ribs. Your timing could have been a little better. We got here as fast as we could. The Admiral pushed the fleet to maximum speed when you reported the planetary disruptor. She looked at the device on the platform. Is that it? That is it. We need to disable it immediately. Chen nodded and signaled to her team. A group of soldiers moved toward the device, carrying equipment that Marcus did not recognize. They began working on it, and, within minutes, the glowing symbols started to fade. The weapon is neutralized, one of the soldiers reported. It cannot be activated now. Marcus let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. Earth was safe. At least for now. But the mission was not over. The Dominion commander was still alive, held at gunpoint by 2 human soldiers. He looked at Marcus with hatred burning in his eyes. This changes nothing, the commander said. The Dominion will still destroy your species. We have ships, weapons, and soldiers beyond counting. You cannot stop us. Marcus walked over and stood directly in front of the commander. You are wrong. This changes everything. Today, humanity showed the galaxy what we are capable of. We took down one of your most important facilities with a handful of soldiers. We stopped your planet-killing weapon. And we did it all because you underestimated us. He leaned closer. That is the last time anyone will make that mistake. From this day forward, the galaxy will know that humans are not to be trifled with. And, if the Dominion ever threatens Earth again, we will bring a war to your doorstep that will make this look like a minor disagreement. The commander said nothing. But, for the first time, there was fear in his eyes. Marcus turned to Chen. Secure this facility. I want every piece of information in this place copied and analyzed. And, get me a communication line to Admiral Chen. We have a lot to discuss. Yes, Commander. As the human soldiers began their work, Marcus walked to a window that overlooked the mountains of Valkyrie Prime. The purple sky was starting to lighten as morning approached. It was beautiful in a strange way, this alien world that had almost been the staging ground for humanity's destruction. But, instead, it had become the birthplace of something new. A turning point in galactic history. The humans had revealed themselves. There was no going back now. And, for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. 3 months had passed since the incident on Valkyrie Prime. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one had predicted. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities had sent shockwaves through every civilization, every government, and every power structure that existed among the stars. The Galactic Council, which had long considered humans to be a minor species barely worth acknowledging, had been forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Reports of what had happened in that mountain facility spread across communication networks at the speed of light. A single human had infiltrated a heavily defended enemy base. A small team of human soldiers had neutralized a weapon capable of destroying planets. The Dominion, one of the most feared empires in existence, had been humiliated. But, more importantly, the intelligence that Marcus and his team had recovered exposed the Dominion's plans for galactic conquest. Evidence of their scheme to destabilize governments through illegal weapons sales, their infiltration of criminal networks, and their intention to wage war against younger species was broadcast to every corner of known space. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found common ground in their fear of the Dominion. Old alliances were renewed, and new ones were formed. The Galactic Council, usually slow and indecisive, voted unanimously to impose sanctions on the Dominion and demand full accountability for their actions. And, at the center of it all stood humanity. Marcus Cole was no longer an unknown intelligence operative working in the shadows. His name had become famous across the galaxy. Stories of what he had done spread through news networks and entertainment channels. Some called him a hero. Others called him a monster. But everyone agreed on one thing. He had changed everything. The Dominion did not take their humiliation quietly. Their emperor, a being known only as the Sovereign, had ruled his empire for over 1,000 years. He had never faced a challenge like this. The loss of the Valkyrie Prime facility was bad enough, but the exposure of his plans had turned the entire galaxy against him. He blamed humanity. And he swore revenge. The first sign of the Dominion's response came 2 weeks after the incident. A human colony on the edge of known space went silent. When rescue ships arrived, they found nothing but ruins. The buildings had been reduced to ash. The people were gone without a trace. Not a single body was recovered, but the message left behind was clear. This is just the beginning. The attacks continued. Colony after colony was destroyed, each one hit faster than the previous one. The Dominion did not send armies. They sent specialized strike teams that could appear without warning, devastate their targets, and disappear before any response could be organized. Humanity was under siege. Admiral Chan called an emergency meeting of the highest military leaders on Earth. The conference room was deep underground, protected by layers of reinforced concrete and energy shields. Around the table sat generals, intelligence directors, and the most powerful figures in human government. And Marcus Cole. He had been promoted to full commander after the Valkyrie Prime operation and given direct authority over the Special Operations Division. The scars from his mission had not yet fully healed, but his mind was as sharp as ever. Admiral Chen stood at the head of the table, her face grave. The situation is critical. We have lost 12 colonies in the past 2 weeks. Total casualties are estimated at over 3 million. Our fleet is stretched thin trying to protect our remaining settlements, but we cannot be everywhere at once. General Morrison, the head of the Earth Defense Force, slammed his fist on the table. We need to strike back. Hit them where it hurts. Show them that attacking us has consequences. And where exactly would you suggest we strike? Asked Director Patel, the intelligence chief. The Dominion has thousands of worlds. Their military is 50 times the size of ours. A direct assault would be suicide. Then, what do you suggest? That we just sit here and let them pick us apart? Marcus had been silent during the argument, but now he spoke. His voice was calm but carried an authority that made everyone stop and listen. The Dominion is not attacking us because they think they can win a war. They are attacking us because they are afraid. They saw what we did on Valkyrie Prime, and they know that if we unite with other species against them, their empire will fall. These strikes are meant to intimidate us, to make us back down before that alliance can form. Admiral Chen nodded. Commander Cole is correct. Our intelligence suggests that the Sovereign is desperate. He knows that time is running out. If we can hold on until the other species commit to a formal alliance, the Dominion will be forced to negotiate or face a war they cannot win. And how long until that alliance happens? General Morrison asked. The Galactic Council is scheduled to vote on the proposal in 6 weeks. If it passes, the alliance will include over 40 different species, with combined military forces that outnumber the Dominion 10-1. 6 weeks, Morrison repeated. Can we survive 6 weeks? There was silence around the table. No one wanted to answer that question. Marcus spoke again. There is another option. Instead of defending against the Dominion's attacks, we go after the source. The strike teams they are sending are being coordinated from somewhere. Find that location, take it out, and the attacks stop. Director Patel shook her head. We have been trying to trace their command structure, but they are using encrypted communications routed through dozens of relay stations. It would take months to crack. Not if we capture one of their operatives alive, Marcus replied. Someone who knows where the orders are coming from. Someone high enough in their command to have access to real information. And how do you propose we do that? These strike teams do not exactly surrender. Marcus smiled slightly. They do if you give them a target too valuable to destroy. Admiral Chun understood immediately. You want to use yourself as bait. The Dominion knows my name. They know what I did to their facility. If they learn that I am stationed at a specific location with minimal protection, they will not be able to resist. They will send their best team to capture or kill me. And, when they do, we will be waiting. The room erupted in argument. Some thought the plan was brilliant. Others thought it was insane. General Morrison accused Marcus of having a death wish. Director Patel pointed out the dozens of ways the plan could fail. But Admiral Chan silenced them all with a raised hand. Commander Cole, you are asking me to risk one of our most valuable assets on a plan that depends entirely on the enemy behaving exactly as we predict. The chances of success are slim, and the consequences of failure are catastrophic. I know, Marcus said. But the alternative is watching more colonies burn while we wait for help that may never come. I would rather take the fight to them than sit here doing nothing. The Admiral studied him for a long moment. Then, she nodded slowly. Very well. You have my authorization. But, you will take a full backup team, hidden but close enough to respond if things go wrong. And, you will follow protocol. No heroics. No unnecessary risks. Is that understood? Understood, Admiral. The meeting ended, and plans began immediately. A small colony on the outer rim was selected as the bait. It was remote enough to seem vulnerable but had terrain that would allow for hidden reinforcements. Marcus would be stationed there openly, with just a handful of guards that would appear easy to overwhelm. The trap was set. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood on the surface of Epsilon 7, a dusty world with a thin atmosphere and gravity slightly heavier than Earth's. The colony here was small, just a few hundred scientists and engineers working on experimental technology. They had been evacuated before Marcus arrived, replaced by soldiers disguised as civilians. Everything was ready. All they needed now was for the Dominion to take the bait. They did not have to wait long. On the third night, the sensors picked up an incoming ship. It was using stealth technology that would have been invisible to most detection systems, but human technology had advanced far beyond what the galaxy expected. Marcus watched on his tactical display as the ship landed in the desert about 5 kilometers from the colony. "Contact confirmed," reported Lieutenant Commander Chen, who had insisted on being part of the backup team. 14 hostiles detected. They are moving toward the colony on foot. "Let them come," Marcus replied. "Everyone stay hidden until I give the signal. We need to draw them in close." The Dominion strike team moved with precision and silence. They were elite soldiers, genetically engineered for combat and equipped with the most advanced weapons their empire possessed. Each one was worth 100 regular fighters. Together, they had destroyed entire colonies without a single survivor. But they had never faced humans who were ready for them. Marcus walked out of the main building as the strike team approached. He was unarmed and unarmored, wearing simple clothes that made him look like an ordinary colonist. The soldiers surrounded him, weapons raised. Their leader stepped forward. He was larger than the others, his armor marked with symbols that indicated high rank. When he spoke, his voice was filtered through his helmet, making it sound mechanical and cold. "Commander Marcus Cole. You are wanted by the Sovereign for crimes against the Dominion. You will come with us." Marcus raised his hands slowly. "And if I refuse? Then, we will kill everyone in this colony and take you by force." "That seems excessive for just one person." "You are not just one person. You are a symbol. Your species thinks you are a hero. When we parade you before the galaxy as our prisoner, that symbol will be shattered." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I see. There is just one problem with your plan." "And what is that?" "I am not a symbol. I am a soldier. And soldiers never fight alone." He said those last words louder than necessary. It was the signal. The ground erupted around the strike team as human soldiers burst from hidden positions. They had been buried in the sand, completely invisible to any scanner. Now they emerged like ghosts, weapons blazing. The Dominion soldiers reacted instantly, returning fire and taking cover. The night exploded into chaos as energy beams and bullets crisscrossed the battlefield. The sound was deafening, a symphony of destruction that shook the very ground. Marcus dove for cover as the shooting started. He was not part of the main assault. His job was different. While the others kept the strike team occupied, he had to capture their leader alive. It was not going to be easy. The Dominion commander was skilled and experienced. He fought like a demon, cutting down 2 human soldiers before anyone could stop him. His armor absorbed hits that would have killed ordinary beings, and his reflexes were almost too fast to follow. But Marcus was faster. He circled around the battle, staying out of sight until he was behind the commander. Then, he moved. His enhanced body crossed the distance in a heartbeat, and he slammed into the commander from behind, driving him to the ground. The two struggled in the dirt, each trying to gain the advantage. The commander was stronger, his armor-enhanced muscles overpowering Marcus's human frame. But Marcus was more agile, more creative, and more desperate. He found a gap in the armor near the neck and drove a small device into it. The device sent an electrical pulse directly into the commander's neural implants, overwhelming his nervous system. The commander convulsed once and then went limp. "Target secure," Marcus reported, breathing heavily. "All units, wrap it up." The rest of the battle did not last much longer. Without their leader, the Dominion soldiers lost coordination. One by one, they were killed or captured. By the time the sun rose over Epsilon 7, it was over. 7 human soldiers had died in the fight. Marcus memorized their names and faces. He would honor their sacrifice when this was over. But, for now, he had work to do. The Dominion commander was brought to an interrogation room in the colony's underground bunker. He was stripped of his armor and bound to a chair with energy restraints. His face was visible now, revealed to be surprisingly human-like except for the gray skin and extra set of eyes that marked his species. Marcus sat across from him, patient and calm. "My name is Commander Marcus Cole," he said. "You already know that." What you may not know is that I spent 3 years in psychological operations before transferring to fieldwork. I am very good at getting information from people who do not want to give it. The commander spat on the floor. I will tell you nothing. The sovereign will come for me. He does not abandon his soldiers. The sovereign does not know you are alive. We jammed all communications from your ship before you landed. As far as he knows, this mission was another success. By the time he realizes otherwise, it will be too late. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the commander's eyes. Marcus leaned forward. I am not going to torture you. That would be pointless anyway. Your species has a high pain tolerance, and you have been trained to resist standard interrogation techniques. But I do not need to hurt you to get what I want. Then, what will you do? I am going to give you a choice. You can tell me what I need to know, and, in exchange, I will guarantee your survival. You will be treated as a prisoner of war according to galactic conventions. When this conflict ends, you will be returned to your people. Or I will send you back to the sovereign right now. With a message attached. You see, we captured your ship's computer systems along with you. There is some very interesting information in there about certain financial irregularities in your unit. Funds that were supposed to go to weapons maintenance seem to have ended up in private accounts. The sovereign does not tolerate corruption in his military, does he? The commander's gray skin went pale. That information is classified. How did you access it? Humans are very good with computers. It is one of the many things you underestimated about us. Marcus stood up and walked to the door. I will give you 1 hour to decide. Tell me what I need to know about the coordination center for these attacks, and you live. Stay silent, and I send you home to face the sovereign's justice. The choice is yours. He left the room and closed the door behind him. Lieutenant Commander Chen was waiting outside. Do you think he will talk? He will, Marcus said confidently. The Dominion demands absolute loyalty from its soldiers, but loyalty goes both ways. When they realize their government will sacrifice them without hesitation, even the most devoted believers start to question their faith. Sure enough, 40 minutes later, the commander broke. He gave up everything. The location of the coordination center, the schedule of planned attacks, the names of the officers in charge. It was exactly what Marcus needed. The coordination center was hidden in an asteroid field near the border of Dominion space. It was a small station, designed to be overlooked, but it controlled the movements of every strike team in the region. Taking it out would cripple the Dominion's ability to continue their attacks. Admiral Chen assembled a task force immediately. 3 destroyers, 2 carriers, and the entire 3rd Battalion of the Special Operations Division. It was the largest human military operation since the formation of the Earth Defense Force. Marcus led the assault personally. The battle for the coordination station lasted 12 hours. The Dominion defenders fought with everything they had, knowing that losing this position would mean losing the war. But they were fighting against an enemy that refused to give up, an enemy that had been underestimated for too long. In the end, humanity won. The station was captured intact, along with mountains of intelligence data that exposed the full extent of the Dominion's plans. The evidence was irrefutable. The Sovereign had been planning not just to defeat humanity, but to conquer the entire galaxy. Every species was a potential target. No one was safe. When this information was presented to the Galactic Council, the vote for alliance was unanimous. 42 species united against the Dominion, forming the largest military coalition in galactic history. The Sovereign's empire, which had stood for thousands of years, began to crumble. The war that followed lasted 3 years. It was brutal and costly, with casualties on both sides that numbered in the billions. But, in the end, the alliance prevailed. The Dominion was defeated, the Sovereign was captured, and the galaxy entered a new era of cooperation and peace. Throughout it all, humanity stood at the forefront. They were no longer a minor species to be ignored or exploited. They were leaders, warriors, and diplomats. They had earned their place among the stars through sacrifice and determination. And, at the center of it all was Marcus Cole. After the war ended, he was offered positions of incredible power. Admiral of the Fleet. Ambassador to the Galactic Council. Even a seat on the new governing body that would oversee the reconstruction of former Dominion worlds. He turned them all down. Instead, he asked for something simpler. A small ship, a crew of volunteers, and permission to explore the unknown regions beyond the galaxy's edge. There were still mysteries out there, still places no one had ever seen. And Marcus had spent too long fighting. He wanted to discover something new. Admiral Chen tried to convince him to stay. You are a hero, Marcus. You have done more for humanity than anyone in history. You deserve to enjoy the peace you helped create. Marcus smiled. Heroes do not sit behind desks, Admiral. And peace is not something I know how to enjoy. Out there, somewhere, there are new challenges waiting. New species who have never heard of humanity. New threats that we cannot even imagine. I want to find them before they find us. And if you do find something dangerous, then they will learn the same lesson the Dominion learned. Never underestimate a human. His ship launched a month later. It was called the Horizon, and it carried a crew of 50 volunteers who shared Marcus's desire for exploration. As they passed the edge of known space and entered the void beyond, Marcus stood at the bridge and looked at the stars stretching into infinity. He thought about everything that had happened. The slave auction where it all began. The mission on Valkyrie Prime. The war that changed the galaxy. He thought about the friends he had lost and the enemies he had defeated. He thought about the species who had looked at humanity and seen nothing but weakness. They had all been wrong. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the oldest or the most advanced. But they had something that others lacked. They had the ability to surprise, to adapt, to overcome any obstacle through sheer force of will. The universe had underestimated humanity. It would not make that mistake again. As the Horizon sailed into the unknown, Marcus allowed himself one last thought. Somewhere out there, beyond the light of familiar stars, something was waiting to be discovered. And, whatever it was, humanity would face it the same way they had faced everything else. Together. The ship accelerated into the darkness, carrying humanity's greatest hero toward his next adventure. Behind him, a galaxy that had once dismissed his species watched with a mixture of respect and wonder. The humans had arrived. And the universe would never be the same.